about, before we did this, the two of you spent some time alone behind closed doors. Is there anything else you'd want to tell us about what happened there, what that was about?
Well, we spent before we could actually go out and perform and do this, I felt it was important, and so did she, that we kind of got to know one another a little better, and what the expectations was, what the limitations was in terms of touch and feel and so on. And in general, that we both mutually felt the compassion to do this, number one, and the compassion, a love compassion. To me, it has to be about love when I work like this. So we agreed that we could love one another in this way, and that's what we had discussed. But it had to be done in privacy. And then, yeah, basically that was what it was. We enjoyed a little fruit and a little water, and
Why did you choose to wear masks?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Repeat the question.
We chose to wear masks because, as Amber put it, it emphasizes the fact that the body is just a shell. The mask, in masking our identity, it transformed us into kind of like spirits within. As does in background of my culture, within the African culture, the mask allowed you to delve into the spiritual essence of yourself and remove yourself from this physical world, in a sense, and take on another identity. That's the whole idea of masquerade. So that was the impetus behind it. But she put it very well. She says when we wear masks, it's less about the body and more about the spirit. And I agree with that.
You talked about your essential work hasn't been seen much.
Quiet!
Sorry.
But that you might show it to the world sometime in the future. Do you think the world will be ready for it?
Throughout my career, I've introduced a number of things and ideas that the world was not quite ready for, and this may just be another one. But I think it is very important as a creative individual, part of a creative force, of which the Imperial Orgy is certainly, that's one of the reasons that I'm involved, is because I think it's a group of people who are looking to change people's perceptions, and it's about love. So when I do introduce the series, I'm sure there'll be eyebrows raised, and then other people, I'm sure, will celebrate it. When I put my work out there, the concern of how people respond to it, of course, is very important to me. I want people to understand and hopefully like the work. But if they don't, then it just means that they may have to catch up a little bit.
There may be naysayers out there who would look at what you're doing in a sense of form and say this just isn't art. Is there any way you would respond to that?
Well, for those who may say this is not art, or this is bordering on whatever they choose to call it, I really have no comment. The work speaks for itself. I mean, I would, people are entitled to feel the way they feel about it. Art is a very subjective enterprise. And, if somebody looks at it and says it's not art, then that's their opinion. I'm not concerned, to be quite frank with you.
In the piece you did with Amber, was there any meaning to the colors you chose?
To me, in the piece that I completed with Amber, colors are very, very important. Color is very important to me, obviously as a visual expressionist, but the colors all have meaning, and they all have kind of a solar radioactivity to them, and there's a science to color. So the green, for instance, is fertility, and the yellow is the sun and Oshun within the Yoruba tradition, which I often use as a reference. Red, of course, is the Shango element, the fire, the power, the blood. The blue is, of course, when you look at blue, you think of the sky, you think of the ocean. So in the case, the way I use it, I'm thinking of Yemanya. As a matter of fact, I even think I said that she's a spirit of Yemanya, which is the mother spirit, the ocean spirit. So yes, the colors all have kind of a solar radioactivity within the scheme of things.
I'm going to come back to something I asked before, which was about the worshiping element. You sort of said you didn't feel it was that, but things you say, almost in pagan terms, still make it sound to me like there is a worshiping going on.
Well,
maybe not of her as an individual, or I don't know really, but you express it in a way that makes me think it still is that.
the idea of worship, I tend to I guess, get a little bashful with that, because it is, the whole idea of worship is been so abused. I worship the forces of the universe. I worship my mother, my father. There's not too many other things on this earth that I worship. But I do participate and ritualize. To me, the creation that I just did with Miss Ray was a ritual of love, a ritual of freedom. And hopefully that ritual will have some solar biological effect in the universe. But even more importantly, if it's recorded, since we're in the era of modern technology, if it's recorded on tape, it means that perhaps hundreds, maybe millions of people will be able to experience it. And thus, it's a ritual that will be shared with the world, and hopefully in that expression, that people will see a glimmer of freedom, see a glimmer of hopefully kind of opening up new vistas of understanding in terms of sensuality. So in that sense, it's a ritual. I would not call it worship particularly. But we may be dealing with semantics here. Maybe same thing.
You talked about this as making love. From your experience of it, is it an erotic experience to you? I mean, when you do it, are you feeling that part of it?
It is absolutely an erotic experience when I do this work, and it's a turn on, both spiritually and sensually. So it is very, very erotic. And I hope that comes across in the expression. But certainly, I'm enjoying it.
Is this something? Say somebody sees this. Do you think this ritual or this experience is something that Joe Smith and his wife might be able to copy to bring sensuality into their life?
The idea that we're expressing here with this painting of the body and this interaction, because it was more than just painting. Amber responded to the paint with motion and dance and expression. And I'm hoping that we created something here that can turn people on and can show people another vision, maybe that's not even the right word, but another angle to the idea of human interactions, human sensual interaction. I think it is so important as we go into the future that some of that be restored. Now, of course, the conservatives and those who are trying to suppress human interaction would probably frown on this, but good.
You've talked about freedom a few times and sort of bringing something that isn't there, and sort of sexuality being oppressed. But in some ways, when you look around the society, there seems to be sex everywhere. Are you speaking of it in a different way than what we see on billboards and on?
Well, the idea of sensuality and sexuality, we have to make a clear distinction. In the media today and
Wait 1 second, maybe. Wait 1 second.
questions, man.
Okay, wait a minute. I think it stopped. Okay. Want to repeat his question?
Try to get it back.
Yeah, that was a good one.
You've talked a lot about